Hello, I'm Doug Mackenzie here at ITC Europe on behalf of Mapfre, and I'm about to talk with Adriano, Koshiyama, and Luis Aranda. Guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. How are you both? You good?
Very good, yeah.
How are you feeling?
Doing well, thank you.
Absolutely amazing. Guys, thank you so much for joining. Adriano, could you please tell us a bit more about yourself and your organization, please?
Definitely. I'm Adriano Koshiyama. I'm the co-founder of Holistic AI. We are a startup. I would say we are probably getting now to a scale up, I suppose, but we started the company about 3 years ago. I'm the co-founder, and the company was meant to achieve responsible AI. That was our ambition, is try to make responsible AI for real and help companies like Mapfre and many others to try to achieve that. So that's our ambition.
That's absolutely amazing. There's never been a more imperative time to really get behind responsible AI. And Luis, could you also tell our viewers in a similar way a bit more about yourself and OECD, please?
Thank you. Well, I've been at the OECD for over 6 years, ever since we first launched, the countries first adopted the OECD AI principles, which became the first international standard on AI. And ever since, we've been trying to help countries implement those principles, trying to make the most out of AI while avoiding the risks or mitigating those risks.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a balancing act when it comes to trying to be innovative, but also responsible and also compliant with a lot of the regulations in, for instance, insurance. But with that in mind then, Luis, I'm going to come to you for my first question. And that is, how do you define responsible AI? Because it's quite a broad term, right?
It is quite broad. At the OECD, we prefer the term trustworthy AI because we believe that's connected to the goal a little bit more. A goal where customers, users, governments, and everyone, the society as a whole, can trust AI systems and use them in a trustworthy manner. So we prefer trustworthy AI. And how do we define it? Well, in the principles, we have 5 values-based principles, and they're the sort of inclusive growth, human rights and fairness, transparency and explainability, security, robustness and safety, and accountability. And those 5 principles, when AI systems respect those principles, we say that they're trustworthy, that we can trust them. Of course, that feels like a long shot. It's hard when you tell a developer, your system has to be inclusive, fair, transparent, explainable, robust, safe, secure. Yeah. You need to be accountable for everything it does. Well, it sounds like too much.
Yeah.
But it's aspirational, and we're here to move forward in that direction and help governments do that.
Amazing. Now, with that in mind, then, Adriano, Luis has kind of mentioned 5 key pillars there. Do you have any to add? Are there any ones that you find different as well?
No, definitely. As you said, the difficulty is to move from principles to practice and achieve that. And the solution is a combination of people and technology. I don't think people only will be able to control AI. I don't think technology only will be able also to answer it. So it's a little bit of both. And we think that to achieve those principles, you need to set up a good governance around how you're going to use AI, set up a risk management framework around it, and try to achieve as much as we can abide to some compliance or some regulatory requirements that are going to emerge. So try to find a technical solution for these 3 pillars will require people and technology.
Interesting. So there's a lot of talent behind the tech. So, I mean, Luis, how do we achieve this then in such, we can look at insurance since we're here at ITC, but a lot of well-regulated industries such as banking as well, but primarily insurance. How can we get to that point of governance, sustainability when it comes to responsible AI?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. There is no magic recipe to get to that point. I think first you have to have some ethical standards, ethical principles that you need to work towards achieving. That requires, as Adriano says, working with people and training people and making sure, for instance, your employees in the insurance sector know the risks of AI, know the values that you're trying to achieve, and work in that direction. Now, there are also a lot of regulations and legislations that are already in place and that can help you in the AI field as well. For instance, data protection.
Yeah.
That's already in place. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. And then there are a lot of tools that exist and are out there to help companies and users implement the principles. For instance, bias detection tools, guidelines, codes of conduct, standards, you name it. It's just an ecosystem of tools. And we're trying to put all those tools together in what we call the catalog of tools for trustworthy AI. And Holistic AI has contributed to that catalog. And we believe that by making those tools available to the broader community, we're helping them implement the principles in a practical way.
Absolutely amazing. And Adriano, I'm intrigued because it really does, well, now that generative AI, for instance, is so popular, are there any geographies in the world that are particularly leading the way when it comes to embracing responsible AI?
I think from what we see in terms of the data, in terms of from the market perspective, is the Western world. Let me put it this way. I think European Union as a whole is leading on that effort, and of course US. Yes. And I think from our own experience, those two jurisdictions, in many ways, they tend to be quite different to how they approach the problem. I think our sense that in European Union, it feels like a lot of this attitudes towards AI tends to come from some sort of concern around data. So, for example, the whole concern about generative AI tend to come from maybe the data from the company is now getting funneled out of the company. So we need to make sure that the data doesn't leave the company or some other risk around the data. While in the US, it's mostly around cybersecurity. So the whole idea around the system potentially getting hijacked by bad actors. Yeah. How do you protect that? The whole IP discussion and the whole litigation attitude. So it's very different, both approaches.
Depending where you go.
Depending where you go.
Fascinating.
But it's quite it's definitely, there's a social dimension to it, but at the same time, makes the whole problem much more colorful.
I can imagine. And Adriano, I'm going to stick with you, but I'm going to ask you both this question. You're speaking here at ITC Europe. Adriano, could you tell our viewers a bit more about what you're going to be speaking on stage?
No, definitely. It was a pleasure to be here. I think we want to try to help this community of insurance to understand the problem of responsible AI, and I'm here to share some of the data that we see from the other sides, from trying to help companies achieve that goal of responsible AI. So talk about the perils, talk about the practical issues that we emerge, but also give some advice, on making sure that you catalog how you're using AI in your business, making sure that you conduct some form of risk assessment. So it's more hygiene attitude. So I would love to discuss more about that and some of the opportunities as well. When you achieve that, it just enables you so much to deploy AI on your business.
Fascinating, changing culture, and it's a harder, thing to do than most people think. You can't just click your fingers and have your whole company, your whole organization suddenly going the same way. But I feel like if you have more discussions about it, eventually you get there. Now, Adriano has brought up, obviously, changing cultures and perspectives. Luis, what are you excited to bring to the table on your panel too?
Well, I think I'm bringing a perspective that's quite complementary from the OECD, which represents governments around the world. And I think the insurance industry would benefit from listening to the insights that we can share about what's going on in the policy discussions today when it comes to AI. What's going on? What are countries doing? What are governments doing? What are regulations starting to look like around the world? And how do they compare? And I think one of the main points that we want to bring to the table today is the importance of interoperability.
Yes.
Because for companies, if standards, regulations, if they're not interoperable, then a company operating in Spain will have to comply to different standards in Germany, in other countries in the US. And that's going to be costly for companies in terms of money and resources. But it's also going to affect customers, because imagine I use a product in one country but that service is not available in another. So I have to look for different apps, download different services to use the same product, right? So it's gonna be painful, and we're trying to avoid that, and we're trying to instead of doing it backwards, once regulation is in place, we're trying to design it in the regulation, and we think there's a window of opportunity to do it now.
Absolutely amazing. And actually, that leads me perfectly on to my last question, and that is, are the regulators doing enough across, for instance, we've already brought up Europe, let's stick with that since we're at ITC DIA Europe. What more do the regulators need to do to really enshrine responsible AI?
AI is a global issue. It's not a problem. It's got a lot of opportunities, but also risks.
Yeah.
And those risks are global. And so there is no single country that is going to solve the problems alone. And I think we all need to understand that. We need to understand the importance of multilateralism for challenges like AI. Is akin to climate change, for instance, in as far as the impact that it has. And we need to build solutions that, as I said before, are interoperable. There is a risk. There is a real risk today that regulation is fragmented, and that's what we want to avoid. That's what we want to avoid in the future.
Yeah, you really need clear and concise, pretty much, as you mentioned as well earlier, interoperable designs when it comes to regulation. And also, Adriano, can I get your perspective on what the regulators should be doing?
No, I concur a lot with Luis said. I think I'm very interested to see how after we move from the legislation aspect, we go into the regulations and the rules and the standards.
Yeah.
I'm very keen to see how that would evolve, because that's the devil in the detail.
Exactly. That's a fascinating point because it keeps changing.
Absolutely. And I think I completely agree with Luis. Like, nobody wins when you have to abide to different standards at every single jurisdiction. So, and the more we can make those metrics, assessments, those standards easy to be adopted, easy to be rolled out, easy to be measured and evident, the better. So we are very keen to work and make this real as well.
Perfect. Guys, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show, and I wish you the best of luck for your talk. So, obrigado.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thank you, guys.